I was wondering if you've been following the recent spat between the Young Turks and Aaron Maté.
I don't know the details of it, just the gist of it, because I haven't been following that closely. But yes, I think I know what they did. They smeared him for Douma. Yes, I think it was particularly about Douma. Is that it?
Yes, essentially. So,
Yeah.
Aaron Maté has pretty much debunked that whole talking point that Assad has gassed his own people. And
Yeah. Well,
Cenk and Anna didn't particularly like that and were saying, fuck you, Aaron.
They said Aaron Maté yelled at me, and
Oh,
so
Aaron Maté lied. Aaron Maté. Everyone cares what Aaron Maté has to say, right?
okay.
The guy who denies that Syrian children were killed with chemical attacks. Yeah.
And
fuck
gets
Aaron
paid
Maté.
by the.
Yeah, fuck you.
Gets
Anyway,
paid
let's
by the
move on.
Russians.
Let's end the freaking pod. I can't.
Okay, see, that's what happens.
I can't stand that guy, and I can't stand the very intentional disinformation they put out there in regard to disgusting dictators around the world. The very people they seem to be working for, to be quite honest with you. Let's move on.
All right, we're done.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
And there was a massive backlash against that from supporters of Aaron Maté. Also, Jimmy Dore was pretty vocal on Twitter as well. There was an interview that Roger Waters gave with Katie Halper, where Roger Waters also was pretty critical of the Young Turks, called them the young fucks.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, do you want to comment?
Yeah, of course, sure.
What a fucking stupid fat prick. Just as long as they're throwing the F word around. I mean, and that woman, I haven't the faintest idea who she is, but she obviously can't read or write. All you have to do is a little bit of research to understand that all the research that has gone into the OPCW debacle and the huge story that is the OPCW, sorry, and the huge story that lies behind that has been completely ignored by the mainstream media because it's inconvenient. And when you actually look at the work that Aaron Maté, for a start, but Grey Zone in general do in trying to bring us, we the people, the truth about what's actually going on in our world, to listen to that garbage and disgusting and foul-mouthed, I have to say. That young lady, well, I hesitate to call her a young lady because she's clearly not in the prime of youth, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact is, how dare she pontificate on some tin pot fucking show like the Fabulous Young Turks or whatever they call themselves? Well, who the fuck are they? I mean, to claim that she knows that Bashar Assad made a chemical attack to kill his own children or the children of his people is beyond condemnable. Is that a word?
I think so.
yes.
I shouldn't really be expending any breath on it because it's so pitiful and pathetic. I am not going to waste my borrow on whatever the young fucks are, because that was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I've heard bad things about them for a long time, but they purport to be thinking young people who have an alternative. They're not. They are the status quo bolstering what the great American empire believes, and obviously they're great supporters of regime change in Syria.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I guess, on your thoughts on the Young Turks overall, because again, this is sort of media that purports to be left-wing, independent, progressive media. However, if you've seen how they've covered RussiaGate, how they've covered Syria, how they covered Israel, Palestine, you can see that's far from the case. Robbie Yeager, independent journalist, also has pointed out how they received $20 million in funding from Clinton donors. So yeah, I guess I just would like your thoughts on groups like the Young Turks that are receiving corporate funding and carrying these imperialist talking points, but saying no, we're progressive, independent media.
Well, I think people give them too much credit. Like it's one thing that they take the money, but I think they're genuinely just dumb and ignorant. I really, unfortunately, believe that. I really think they have no clue outside of partisan politics in Democrats and Republicans. They have no clue what they're talking about. This is unfortunately the problem we are dealing with. On top of the obvious conflicts of interest with taking Clinton money, and the thing is that. The Young Turks, I mean, I was just watching their coverage of the Syrian elections as well. And I mean, it's you have bad coverage and then you have TYT bad coverage. This is just astonishingly atrocious. It's categorically, abominable the way that they try to talk about foreign policy and foreign issues. And it's worse than CNN. I mean, and that's saying something. It's really worse than that. I'm not surprised, but I am like disgusted by it nonetheless.
So the group that put this international delegation together, the election monitors essentially, is a pro-Assad group. They get sold to the American people as just this anti-imperialist group, anti-war group. But you got to look at the individuals in the steering committee for this group, and they're pretty transparently pro-Assad. And so be careful of that type of intentional propaganda meant to bolster Assad as some sort of democratic and popular leader in Syria. That's just not the case.
Yeah, from our paid vacation in Damascus and from our hotel rooms, when we finished the second course of the meal, I looked out the window and things seemed pretty cool, And I just signed my name on the statement about imperialism, yada, 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 continue my free trip to Syria. Paid for by Assad. Cool.
Again, RussiaGate is another issue on top of Syria, and of course, I've seen their coverage of Gaza in 2014. And that itself is also bad, where they're trying to do this like fake, let's not take any sides thing, and we'll like argue for the Israelis. Like what? It's just like they think that defending colonizers and an occupation is being objective. It's astonishingly bad. And so they had some poster also like Battlefield Gaza or something like. I mean, to call it poor taste is an understatement. And well, I'm not surprised that they go and smear people who it's not just about going against them, it's just to speak the truth, right? We know for a fact that what happened in Douma, I mean, what is astonishing to me is how anyone can believe what Britain and the US say about chemical weapons or weapons of mass destruction after Iraq. Like, let's start there. How could you possibly take their word after what they did, after the lies in 2003? Moreover, when I covered the Douma scandal, I also had Aaron on my show, and we went through it. Like, I kind of described the geography of Damascus and Damascus countryside, because that's where Douma is. It's in a region called Ghouta in the countryside. And there was an operation going on by the Syrian army to take back this region because it had been under jihadist control for about 8 years. And some of those groups, by the way, like Jais al-Islam and Faylaq al-Rahman, they are right now in Idlib in northern Syria. So there was a military operation to take that back, and they had just finished taking back the whole thing, and all of a sudden there's a chemical attack. I mean, who does that, right? It makes no sense. So just geographically, strategically, militarily made no sense. And then of course we went into the emails, the evidence itself from the OPCW. So there's multiple fronts on how you can debunk this gas attack that never took place. And unfortunately, the Young Turks and other so-called independent media, they've decided to, repeat CIA propaganda. I mean, it's very unfortunate, because you don't need to be a genius to debunk it. It's quite obvious what happened. Nothing happened.
Just to be clear, you genuinely think that it's just bad takes, or do you think that the money that they've received has kind of influenced their worldview at all?
I think it's both. It's definitely both, because I mean, if you know what's happening, there is no way you could behave and report like that. It's just it really defies logic to me. And I think, especially if we're talking about in their case, the Young Turks, I really think that they have no clue what they're talking about. They are so ignorant that they don't know anything outside partisan politics. And on top of it, we have this taking Clinton money. I mean, that speaks for itself. Really, it's astonishing.